Hi, good morning to one and all. In this video, we will look into procure-to-pay cycle. Procure-to-pay cycle. So, what we are discussing in this video is PMM P2p cycle. So the full form is procure to pay. P to pay in the sense procure to pay. So before coming to what are the steps involved in procure to pay cycle, I'll just explain you the example of some manufacturing company. So what are the things that are going in company, I'll just explain you, then I'll discuss all the steps in detail. So if you consider manufacturing company as an example, or in fact if you consider any company, there are several departments working inside this company towards common goal. Suppose this company is a car manufacturing company. The final product of a company is car. So the production department is involved in manufacturing production activities. So sales department after production, so sales department will work for another reason. Accounts department will work or oversee all the payment and all this accounts, that is financial related activities are taken care by accounts departments. Similarly, so these are other departments. So for SAP MM consultant, so we are working here in purchase and store department. So main function of a SAP MM module is procurement and inventory management. So what will happen whenever there is a requirement? Suppose this production department needs some material, some material or whatever the material may be. I'll just say, suppose need one material to carry their production activity. This production department need material. This production department, what it will do, so whatever the requirement, so whatever the material they required, they will just ask this purchase department to supply this material. So the procuring this material is not function of production department. So what this production department will do, so this production department needs this material. It will ask this purchase department to supply this material. So the first step, what is the first step is, so first step is what requirement generation. So first, if you want to purchase something, there should be a need of a material or a service, then only you will purchase a material or a service, right? So then only purchase department will purchase material, or else how simply without requirement nobody will purchase anything, right? So this requirement will come from this department. Production department I am taking just an example, so it might be from any of the departments. So there are many other concepts like direct material, indirect material. So direct procurement, indirect procurement. So whatever the material which are directly consumed to produce a finished product, that is the car, we will call it as a direct material, and other materials, so which are required to complete those production activities, so those are called indirect materials. So there are many other concepts. As of now, just focus on just to understand what is a P2P cycle, and later I'll go deep. I am not going to miss even single topics. I'll cover as much as deep I can. No need to worry. Just as of now, focus how the company will work, that is how the P2P cycle will work. So now this production department need this material. So this production department function is only to produce a material, not procure this material, right? So what it will do, it will ask this purchase department. So purchase department, so once the requirement, it receives some requirements, okay, then the purchase department activities will start. So our procurement activities will start. So this first step is requirement generation, okay. So okay, you understood, right? First step is a requirement generation. So this production department will ask for this material to purchase department. So in industrial terms, what we call this step, that is the asking this material to this purchase department, we call it as a requesting material, okay, purchase requisition. So it is officially saying to this purchase department to procure this material. So that we call as a purchase requisition, okay. Purchase, in short we will call PR, or a purchase requisition, okay. This is the first step, that is this production department so first document you can say, not a first step. First step in general P2P cycle, what we call as requirement generation. Requirement generation is a first step, right? So in bracket I will write requirement generation, okay. So this is the first step, requirement generation is a first step. So to ask this material officially, they will use this document, that is purchase requisition. They will create a purchase requisition. So this production department will raise a PR to purchase department, or else in some cases what will happen, this production department just ask formally to supply this material, or in industry what will happen, they will give indent in hard copy, they will write it and give, they will be having some formats, they will fill the formats and give it to purchase department. So in SAP what purchase department will do, purchase department will create a PR, purchase requisition, behalf of this production department, okay. Or else in some of the cases what will happen, this production department directly create this purchase requisition in SAP itself, okay. So once the requirement generation happens, now the purchase department know what to be procured, okay. So what to be procured, right? You can say WHAT, what to be procured. Now see, now what it will do, purchase department, it will go to some vendor and purchase this material, okay. General term what will happen, this purchase department go to some vendor, okay, and procure this material, right. So here we have some two scenarios. Scenario 1 is scenario 1, I will write as case 1. Case 1, what happened, we know the vendor already, vendor AVAILA, vendor already available. So this purchase department knows who is supplying this material, it is already known to purchase department. So what purchase department will do, so directly this purchase department will, case 1 what will happen, so this purchase department know who is supplying this vendor this material, that is it is already this material is procuring from some vendor, okay, we are already procuring this material some particular vendor, okay. Okay, this vendor is supplying this material. We already, purchase department already know this. Okay, for this material this is the vendor. In this case what will happen, this purchase department will directly give purchase order to this vendor. Okay, this will become second step. Second step, what will happen, PO, purchase order, that is purchase order. So what will happen, since vendor is already known, directly this purchase department will create a purchase order and give it to this vendor. Okay, PO, purchase department gives PO to this vendor. This purchase order is nothing but it is a legal document which indicates, so officially you are saying this vendor, asking this vendor to produce this material and supply to our company. This is the official document. Purchase order is a official document. So once you hand over, give the purchase order, it will become final. Okay, legal document to order a material from vendor. Okay, so what will happen, once vendor receives this purchase order, he will manufacture this material. Yeah. After receiving PO, he will manufacture this material. So I'll just explain, I'll show the PO document and all those things. PO is nothing but an official document. It will be having what is the quantity of the, what is the material and how much is the quantity and what is the date this material to be delivered to our plant. All these details will be available in this purchase order document. Okay. Similarly, in purchase requisition document, what will be there? So this this user department, this production department will ask this material. See, in purchase requisition, what is the material, what is the quantity, and on which date you need this material. This will be there in purchase requisition. Okay. So this is for internal communication. Purchase requisition is for only internal communication. So this document will be there within your company only. So in case of PO is a external document. So you can say purchase requisition is a internal document and PO is a external document. External document. So once this vendor receives this purchase order document, according to this date, this quantity and this material, he will manufacture this material and send it back to stores, in the sense send it back to our company. Okay, finished product. Finished material he will send back to our company. So this, whatever the material we will receive from this material, it will be stored in stores. So the main function of a stores is manage inventory. Whatever the material is supplied from this vendor, before receiving to this store, it will check for the quantity, okay, quality with respect to, it may be from purchase order also, with respect to purchase order he will verify, or there are many other cases also, depending upon the agreement between vendor and the company, there are many options also available. So he will check the material quality, and according to the quantity, whatever the quantity we have given in PO is there or not, he will check and receive this material. Okay. So in next step is purchase order. After purchase order, what will happen? Officially, if you say, once you give purchase order to this vendor, he will confirm, acknowledge, he will say, in other sense, acknowledge. Will acknowledge the purchase order. In this acknowledgement, in the sense, so in whatever the dates you have mentioned in PO or quantity, okay, is it possible for this vendor to supply according to this whatever the dates mentioned in PO or not? So if any cases of is not meeting the requirement, or he is unable to meet the requirement on particular date, he will, in acknowledgement, he will say, for particular date I am unable to give this material. Okay. So there might be changes in date or a quantity with respect to purchase order. He will acknowledge this. Or if he can produce this material and supply within as per the purchase order, he will just accept the purchase order, okay, and will produce this material and send to our company. So after acknowledging, what will happen? He will manufacture that material, and he will send these materials to our company. So we will receive in our stores. Next step is goods received. Goods received, RECI. Okay. He will do the production, and on particular date he will send the, after finishing the process, he will send the material to our company, that is, and we will receive this material in our company, that is we call goods received. Okay. This is the fourth step. Next, what will happen? While sending the material, along with this material, he will send invoice also. Invoice in the sense, what is the cost of this material, what he is going to charge for a particular PO. He will request for payment in the form of invoice. Okay. He will send invoice, okay, with along with goods. Okay. Invoice is a document. So what it will contain? It will contain information related to money. For whatever the quantity I am supplying, this is the bill. In the sense, this is the charges I am applying to this material. So these all the charges and all those things are already previously discussed with this company only, manufacturing company only. They will be having mutual agreement. Okay. So with respect to, for particular whatever the material, suppose 100 quantity, if we requested in PO for 100 quantity, this will be the invoice. So 100 quantity for suppose each material, if 10 rupees is the bill, for 100 rupees 1000 rupees is the cost. So in invoice it will be there. So in detail I will go later, but you just understand the outline of the concept. So we have many things. When we receive goods, what are the documents we will get from the vendor, and what are the entries, accounting entries will happen. So there are many things are there. So we will discuss one by one. Okay. So now, as of now, you understand overall concept, right? After giving invoice, so we need to pay the vendor, right? At last we need to pay the vendor. Okay. After payment, so our cycle will be closed, right? So this is why we call this cycle as a P2P cycle. We are procuring to pay, right? So this is in case if vendor already available, right? Now I think you already you understood. If we already know the vendor, I'll just sum it up in some 2 to 3 lines. So whenever there is a requirement arises from any user departments, these production, sales, all those things we call as a user departments. So whenever there is a requirement arises from these user departments, this user department will require raise a purchase requisition to purchase department. So purchase department will raise a purchase order and give it to vendor. So vendor will manufacture and deliver this finished product to back to our company, and he will be paid for whatever the material he supplied. Okay, this is when we already know the vendor. So we have one more case. I think now you understood this, right? I'll just show one more scenario where we don't know the vendor. So this cycle will be same, but some additional documents will come. Okay. See what will happen now. In previous case, what had happened? We already know the vendor. Suppose for this material we don't know the vendor. Who is the vendor? Who is supplying this material? In this is a new requirement. We don't know the vendor. In that case, what will happen? Will raise a again I need to. So now there is only one vendor, right? Now in this scenario we will be having two vendor 1, vendor 2, vendor 3. Suppose I will explain it now. So now we don't know the who is the vendor. I'll do one thing. I'll just erase these things. So second scenario is we don't know the vendor for this particular material. So this is the first time we are getting this requirement. So purchase department don't have supplier for this material. So what will happen in that case? Purchase department will search for a vendors. Okay, those are supplying this material. Okay, second step, what will happen? Vendor also called source determination we call it. So step after purchase requisition, we will be having second step is source determination. In previous case we were not knowing and we already know the source, so we are directly order the material, we are directly given the purchase order to that vendor. So now in this case we don't know the source, or in the sense we don't know the vendor. So second, there is one more process, that is source determination. So in under this step we have many other sub steps also. Source determination, what will happen? Source determination, purchase department will send a quotation, request for quotation. Suppose what will happen? Purchase department for this particular material, it will search for vendors around the city, so who is supplying this material. Okay, they will just make a research on these vendors, who are supplying this vendor, and they will ask for a quotation, they will request for a quotation. RFQ, we call it as a RFQ, since REQUEST for quotation. So from all these vendors they will request for a quotation. Quotation in the sense, what is meant by quotation? So quotation is a formal document which represents for particular material, this is our price, this is our quality, and this is our delivery time. So each vendor will be having different quality, different rate, different delivery date, and different quality. So according to that, this rate and all those things will differ. So before purchasing anything, purchase department will ask for a quotation. If they are procuring for a first time, so they will ask for quotation. This is the first step. Under source determination, request for quotation is a first step. So this purchase department, first what it will do, in previous case directly used to send the PO, right? Now instead of PO, purchase department asks for a quotation, that is request for quotation. Okay. Next, these vendors, after purchase department requests quotation from these vendors will give a quotation, submit a quotation to purchase department. Next is quotation. So quotation, next step is a quotation. Who will give the quotation? Vendors. These all three vendors will give their quotation. So quotation in the sense, what are their prices for supplying, what is the rate, their rate for this material, and what is the quality they are going to supply, and what is the delivery date they can, at what delivery date they can deliver. Each vendor will give the quotation to this purchasing department. So first purchasing department asks for a quotation, then these vendors, 3 vendors will submit the quotation. Again next later what will happen, next step is quotation comparison. Quotation comparison. So once these vendors will submit the quotation, purchase department will compare each quotations. So who is giving best price, who is giving best quality, okay, depending on that this purchasing department will do the quotation comparison. And finally what will happen, who is giving best quality or at cheap rate or according to their delivery date, they will be having many criteria. Depending on those criteria, they will select one vendor among these 3 vendors. Now I am taking 3 examples. So they will select one vendor and reject 2 vendor. So fourth step is acceptance, quotation acceptance letter and rejection letter. So suppose consider vendor 1 is accepted, vendor 2 is accepted and vendor 2 is rejected. Vendor 1 and 3 are rejected. So they will give acceptance letter to this vendor, okay, and rejection letter to this vendor. These 2 vendors, they will give rejection letter. So they will receive rejection letter and this company will return get acceptance letter. So acceptance letter in the sense, we are accepting your quotation, your proposal, okay. Once accepting the quotation, I'll need some space here. Next what will happen, they will maintain the quotation. Next step is maintain the quotation. Okay, they will maintain quotation in the sense, so whatever the rate, okay, whatever the delivery date and all those things accepted by this vendor, is there vendor 2, this will be entered in system. These details will be entered in SAP system. So for particular material, then it will become final. For this material, he is the vendor. For this material, he is the vendor, and this is the rate and this is the delivery date. So all these detail will be saved according this vendor's name. So Next step what will happen, next the remaining things are same, like in previous case in with vendor, how remaining things are same. After maintaining the quotation, then purchase department will finally give the purchase order. Okay, purchase department will give purchase order to this vendor. Okay, this vendor, again this vendor will manufacture this material and supply the material. Once you give the purchase order, he will do the acknowledgement and he will send the material with invoice. So he will send the material, we will receive it in our store, we will receive the goods receipt, and then along with goods receipt we will get the invoice, and later we will do the payment. This is the second scenario. So now you understood what is P2P cycle, right? P2P cycle in the sense, so procure to pay. First step is requirement generation. Second step is, if we already know the source, we will directly go for purchase order, then he will acknowledge, then he will send the material with along with the material document and invoice document. So we will receive the goods and finally we will settle the payment. In other case, that is when vendor is new, that is unknown vendor, we have source determination step extra. So we will request for quotation for all the vendors. So they will submit the quotation, we will compare those quotations and we will accept the best proposal and reject remaining proposals. Finally we will maintain these details in our system, then remaining things will be same. Then we will give the purchase order, he will manufacture and he will send those finished goods to our company, we will receive the goods and we will receive the invoice, and finally we do the payment. So this is how procure to pay cycle works. So this is the general thing I have explained now, but so these are the things I have explained there. So in SAP MM, so we have already discussed master data. Master data in the sense material master, vendor master, all those things are master data. So we have one more concept called transaction data. Transaction is nothing but day-to-day activities, business activities which are carried in the company. So those data, these details are called transaction details. So MM have two departments, as I said, purchasing and inventory management. Purchasing activities are taken care by purchase organization, purchase group. See, I will explain these two things later. Purchase department only. So inventory management concepts are, inventory management activities are taken care by store department. Okay. So P2P cycle in MM we have procure to pay. Likewise in other modules also there are some business scenarios are, that is order to cash in SD, plan to produce in PP, and record to report in FICO. So here some example I have taken, but it's not necessary. So with vendor availability, what will happen? First is purchase requisition, then purchase order, then goods receipt, then invoice receipt. Without vendor availability, what will happen? First we will go for purchase requisition, then request for quotation, maintain quotation, price comparison, rejection process. So these things I have explained there. Purchase order, select one for selected vendor. So purchase order will give goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment settlement. Okay, this is the P2P cycle. Next we will go in depth each document, what are the document involved, like purchase requisition, purchase order, request for quotation, all those things we will discuss one by one in detail. So in this video I hope you understood all the concepts. So I might have taken more time because If you listen carefully, you will get clear understanding. Then no need to by heart these steps and all those things. Don't make an habit of by hearting these things. Just understand the cycle, then only you will remember. So thank you for as of now. So we will meet in next class. We will see what is meant by purchase requisition and all the remaining documents. So we will enter into SAP screen and we'll discuss all those things. So thank you.